Next we have Florida's Bridge Program from Richard Kerr, who is the Bridge Management Inspection Engineer for Florida DOT, and he has a BS in Civil Engineering from Lehigh and has 35 years of experience. And has been the chair of this committee previously, and is also part of the Pontus Users Group, is now the Bridge Management Users Group. So,
Okay, so I'm going to talk about bridge preservation and asset management from the Florida perspective. Mine's going to be a little bit more nuts and bolts than Eric's presentation. I was hoping that Eric would cover basically what I was going to do, then I wouldn't have to do anything. I could just skip mine. And there's going to be some sort of follow-up from some stuff that was talked about yesterday. I'm going to talk about our process, and when I was told that I was going to be giving this speech, I think I missed the same meeting that Chris met, that Eric missed, and I looked at the title and I said, what am I supposed to present about that? And they told me, well, it's sort of tie the bridge inspection to how you do. So I said, oh, okay, I can do that. And, rather than talk about stuff that I didn't fully understand, I decided I'd go visit our District 2, which is within an easy driving distance from Tallahassee, and watch how they did it and talk and set my presentation about that, get a little bit more accuracy. So I'm going to talk about the District 2 FARC meeting, that's Feasible Action Review Committee. We came up with that title because, original Pontus used feasible actions, and when we went to Pontus, we said, well, we're going to have a review committee. We had the district structures maintenance engineer wanted to have a team, but we said, no, it's going to be the FARC meeting instead of the whatever. And I'm going to talk about the Office of Maintenance role in this, and I'm going to give some conclusions. We're decentralized in Florida, so there is some variation between the districts. We have 7 geographical districts and the Turnpike district. But the general process is the inspectors make recommendations. The committee reviews these. They make a determination of action, whether it's going to be routine maintenance, which is a preservation action, a repair, which is also classified as preservation, or rehabilitation or replacement. And we also try to close the circle and provide feedback back to the inspectors to educate them, get better recommendations from them, and learn from them. We have 4 work order priorities. Priority 1 is emergency, which is required to be performed in 60 days. Generally, a lot of times, the work is done, and then there's paperwork to follow. Urgent, performed in 180 days. That's something that, if you don't fix it relatively quickly, it can lead to a worsening situation. A routine, do it in a year. A lot of these don't have to be done in a year, but you don't want them hanging around. And then we have informational where there's no time limit. A lot of times we use those to build contracts. Maybe we get some joint repairs that we need, and we get a bunch of them so that we can make a sizable, good contract that a contractor will want to go after and can do efficiently. Maybe on a stretch of road so that you can minimize your different MOTs and so forth. Florida District 2, it's our Northeast Florida district. Starts at the Georgia line, has the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico coast, has Jacksonville, which was probably the biggest city for a while in Florida. Has a little bit more older bridges because it's been around as a big city for a while, as opposed to down South Florida, where it's just most of your growth has been after World War II. Also has St. Augustine, which is the longest continuous European settlement in the country. And it goes mixture of urban to very rural counties. It has approximately 29 million square feet of bridge deck. Here's the Dames Point Bridge, which is our other cable stay bridge in the state. Everybody knows the Skyway. This is our other highway cable stay bridge. It has more deck area than 14 states do, so they do cover they do have a significant number of bridges in variety of conditions. They have 1,236 state bridges and 692 local government bridges. They're responsible for seeing that all these are inspected. They have 6 movable bridges. Here we have the St. Mary's River Bridge. It's on the Georgia border. It was built in 1927, so it's historic, so we can't really replace it. It does not have machinery. This is how it's open. They put 4 people on each side and walk around to open it. It was built in 1927. Between Georgia and Alabama, we alternate which bridge we maintain, and somehow we got this one. We've had it for almost 90 years. Maybe we can give it to Georgia for the next 90 years. We've recently done a good rehab on it, nicely painted. So we think we can make this one last another 90 years. They have 2 major steel trusses. They're in Jacksonville, 1 cable stay bridge, a small suspension bridge, 1 steel tied arch. You guys might remember in Louisville, they closed a steel tied arch bridge because of T1 steel developing cracks. And FHWA sent out a memo asking the states to identify where they might have used T1 steel. I didn't think we had any. I sent it out to the districts. Guess what? Our tie for that steel-tied arch bridge is T1 steel. So we're looking closer. We know to look closely at that. We haven't had any issues with it, and hopefully we won't. And we have 6 segmental bridges in this district. So they've got all sorts of bridge types, enough to keep them busy. I think of the 6 movable bridges, 4 of them are historic. 3 of them were built around 1927, so they're going to still have movable bridges well through this century, probably. This is the FARC meeting that occurred back in February. Here you can see they're discussing a bridge report and having a good discussion. These are generally good discussions. Generally, there no fights occur. Or else I was there and they just kept the fight secret. So in this case, it was made up of the district structures maintenance engineer. He's responsible for all the bridges in the district. The engineering section manager, bridge inspection supervisor, the fixed bridge manager, the movable bridge manager, and the consultant inspection program manager. In some districts, especially if there's an asset maintenance contract with our bridges, they may also include consultant inspectors and the contractors and asset maintenance contractors in these meetings. Preparation. The inspection reports and 5-year work program are reviewed by the engineering section manager and the bridge inspection supervisor. The bridge inspection supervisor and the engineering section manager review all inspection reports. The inspection supervisor initials them and section manager signs and seals them. These were done for a 2-week period, and the agenda consists of all the inspector recommendations for the bridges involved, with a priority. The priority is initially proposed by the inspector recommendation and relevant notes, and the committee members get the agenda prior to the meeting so that they can look at the things and see, well, maybe I need to look at this bridge report before I get out there. The reason we look at the 5-year work program, if you're going to replace a bridge, and then if it's in the bridge program for rehab or repair, we may, or replacement, we may want to change our what we do on it. An example, there's a strip seal that's leaking. They decide to replace it. The inspector recommends it being done with a pourable seal. They sign a priority 3, and the committee said, yeah, that was a good recommendation. We're going to put it in the work order system and see that it's done. It's held every 2 weeks. In this case, there were 18 inspections, 9 of which had inspector recommendations, a total of 30 inspector recommendations. During the results, there were 3 recommendations that dealt with fixing roadway slopes that had possibility of affecting the bridges. So these were given to roadway maintenance and they weren't put into the work order system. They didn't change any work orders. They decided to give feedback to the inspectors in one area. I'll talk about that. So we need to look at one of the recommendations, do some additional investigation, and one recommendation required engineering analysis, and there were no work program work identified, which would be major repair, rehab, or replacement. This is an example of the inspector feedback. The inspector had recommended seal all the joints in the slope pavement, but the district had decided from their experience that the joints that were under the bridge did not really need to be sealed, so they're going to provide feedback to the inspectors only to recommended sealing the joints in the slope pavement where it wasn't under the bridge, and make sure the joint on the berm was sealed. So that was an example of feedback to help the inspectors improve. This is a MSE wall. They're supporting a bridge where the abutment is, the piles are behind the MSE wall. They were finding some that some of the joints, there were some openings that were kind of large. They were kind of wondering if there was some loss of backfill behind the slope pavement. So they decided they were going to make a special investigation, take a bore scope out there, poke it in there, see if there's anything happening more before they just decided to seal the joints. Here on a bridge, we had some for pot bearing. I think this was a continuous post-tensioned girder bridge. They were getting spalling around the pot bearing. They had similar bridges that they weren't seeing it on. They wanted to look at that and maybe compare the two bridges, see if their reinforcing pattern was different, run through some design calculations to see maybe the loads are a little higher than we anticipated, try to find out maybe what was going on there. Preventative maintenance. If they get recurring deficiencies, they may decide to do some preventative maintenance. Here's an example which we all see of debris accumulating in the deck joints, or if you have deck trains that are accumulating in it, and every inspection report you start seeing that pattern. They may decide to schedule preventive maintenance every 6 months, put it on a cruise duty. Every 6 months you go out there and clean that out, try to preserve the service life of the joint, and of course for deck drains, you want those deck drains to work to prevent ponding and make that work better. What does the Office of Maintenance do? That's where Jeff and I work. We provide the budget. We make policies and procedures. We conduct annual quality assessment reviews of each district. There's an old saying, what gets measured gets done. When we started our work order system, it wasn't really doing very well. We started doing, calling attention to that during the quality assessment reviews. Now we're generally seeing that 100% or 99.9% of our work orders are completed on time, and we get good quality. We provide assistance upon request. If they have some technical issues they want to run it by us, they can. They can also talk to Ivan and his colleagues in the materials office. They're always willing to help the districts out when they run into some problems. But generally the districts run pretty good, and they do 99% of the work without consulting us, and they do a real good job. That's why Florida's bridges, one of the reasons Florida's bridges are in such good condition. So our conclusions, we make our decisions at the district level. They're closer to the bridges. In one case if we had this all coming to Tallahassee, when the case where they wanted to go look at a bridge, we'd have to make special arrangements to make a trip to that bridge. They can, do it in the, afternoon and get back without any problems. You have the involvement of the inspection and engineering staffs. You got good communication between that. I heard a lot of talk in the peer review session, the peer exchanges that we're not getting, that a lot of places aren't getting good communications. We try to get that good communication between everybody. We find it's very, very helpful. And that's it. We have time for questions?
Yeah, we got time for some questions.
Richard, I know Florida's got a lot of money
but do you ever run into, I see where they do it and they review the actions at certain times, but do you ever run into where y'all don't have enough money? I would imagine a recommendation to paint some of your big structures that are millions of dollars, they can't just say, okay, we're doing it within 60 days. So.
Yeah, of course, a paint project would go into the work program, and that's generally a 2-year, once it's identified, they're supposed to do it within 2 years, and that does, I mentioned that district has some big trusses. You know, a couple of them, one of them was an $11 million project. Another one, because they were putting some repairs in, was like a $28 million project before it was all said and done. A lot of what times what we'll do on those, because it's exceeding their budget, we'll go talk to the executive board and say, can we squeeze in this project, and can you come up with some money? And generally they do, but you know, it does, they may do it a couple years later, you know, because, you know, then they would have liked to do it, you know, but we do try to get that money to them. And, you know, there are some areas over the years, we allocate them money, each district money for their work. And occasionally a district will get a project that is a budget buster. And they let us know, and we try to work with them and then beg from the executive committee. One of the things that's an advantage to us is in Florida, it's in the statutes, that system preservation is one of the 3 priorities for the department. And the executive board, which consists of the district secretary, the secretaries and the assistant secretaries and the district secretaries, takes that to heart and has funded us quite fairly well.
Yeah. Richard, really good presentation. In our asset management breakout session earlier today on research, we talked about capturing the costs. And does that cost, when you do that your maintenance crews expend, does that get tracked back into your database somehow? Not
really. It is a difficult situation. You know, a lot of the things we run into, we can get the total costs. You know, we have a total cost for routine maintenance, but a lot of times the units that, you know, we get paid contractors do not agree with the units you use in the asset management system. We have done some research projects to go through history to give us unit costs and they're up on our research website. John Sabaggio, Paul Thompson did our research for it, where they were the co-principal investigators.
Hey, Richard, I think last question. What was your state budget, your maintenance budget, and does your office get involved in the development of that budget, or is it historical based?
We break down the maintenance budget, the routine maintenance budget, and it's for all of maintenance, is an inventory based budget. We have a unit cost for how many piles you have, how many what's your square footed deck area, how much bridge railing you have, and so forth. And I think for statewide, the routine maintenance budget is around $10 million, and that is given to the district maintenance engineer, along with his money for mowing and landscaping and pavement markings, et cetera, and it's his decision on how it gets allocated, but we do that. Now for repair, the budget is around $80 million, and that's again an inventory-based budget. It's allocated based on deck area, number of movable bridges, structural steel tons, number of fender systems. I think that's it. And then replacements, bridge replacements is $1/3, and that sort of varies up and down depending on what's coming down through the work program.
So is it fair to say that the maintenance and the repair is based on inventory, not condition? That's pretty much
pretty
set.
much the.
But your replacement is based on needs.
The replacement's based on needs, and
okay.
you know, if 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 we start to slip in our condition, we go to the executive board and say, well, maybe could you give us a little bit more? And occasionally, like, you know, as we've done some studies, we anticipate a movable bridge gets rehabbed every 20 years. And, you know, when we started seeing costs rise, we went to them and said, okay, we need to increase the unit cost for that. Same with fender systems, same with painting. And portion of the money is we allocate to the districts based on the deck area in poor or fair condition. If the bridge is in poor or fair condition, not just the deck.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. That's a good tie-in for the after the break with the roundtable discussion. Next,